Today's lecture is about a form of poetry that is called sonnet and which is very popular even now in the modern times. We will discuss its history and definitions. This lecture is presented by us-Sahar. Definition of the sonnet is thus: it is a 14-line lyric poem in iambic pentameter. This poem is written in 14 lines. It has a certain structure. It is in iambic pentameter and it was originated in the 13th century in Italy. The sonnet started in Italy and from there it travelled to England and France, and it became the most popular form of poetry for a long time. Shakespeare in 16th century changed it and modified it, and his style of sonnet writing is different from the Italians. It is not very easy to write, although it is very short, but its rhyme scheme is very rigid. It is very difficult to write in that rhyme scheme. And mostly sonnets are written about love. It is love poetry. Now, what is iambic pentameter? First of all, we shall look at iambic foot. We know that there are two sort of syllables, unstressed and stressed. The stressed syllable is the one in which you have to move your mouth a lot to utter something, and the unstressed one is in which you don't have to move your mouth a lot to say something. It is followed by in iambic foot, first syllable is unstressed and the second one is stressed, and it is a foot with two syllables. Pentameter mean 5 feet, so it would be 10 syllables in total in the iambic pentameter, and there are 10 syllables per line, like my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. What is Italian sonnet? Italian sonnet was created by Giacomo di Lentini, but it was made famous by Francesco Petrarca. It has again 14 lines. It is divided in two parts, although there is no line or a break to unlink the two parts. They are written in one stanza. First 8 lines are called octave, and the rhyme scheme is regular pattern of rhyming words in a poem or a stanza. Two words that sound the same at the end of the lines are called rhyme scheme. To indicate the rhyme scheme, each final sound is assigned a letter. Purpose is to raise question. Why sonnet is written? In Italian, sonnet is written to raise a question, to state a problem, or present a brief story. The second part is called sestate. It has 6 lines. The rhyme scheme is different, and its purpose is to answer the question that were raised in first 8 lines, solve the problem, or comment on the story that has been discussed. So these octave and sestate should be totally different in this way, that in the first part there would be a question or a problem or a story, and the second part would comment on it or solve the problem or answer the question. So there would be a certain structure to an Italian sonnet. William Shakespeare, the greatest playwright of the world, was also one of the best sonnet writers of his time. Till 16th century there were many poets who had written sonnets, but Shakespeare is unique and different here as well. Now, how does the Shakespearean sonnet look like? It is also called English sonnet. It has 14 lines. It has iambic pentameter, and there is no difference in the basic structure of Shakespearean sonnet. But the rhyme scheme would be different. In the first quatrain, or that means first 4 lines, and then the second quatrain and the next 4 lines, and then the third quatrain, the lines would be different from the Italian one, and at the end of the third quatrain we see a volta. The rhyming couplet is often a summary of the poem's idea. Rhyming couplet means the last two lines. Last two lines are the summary of the complete sonnet, but there is a sudden change in the thought. The topic is solved or the problem is solved in the end, or the writer has a sudden new idea, and or maybe suddenly the problem is solved. The last two lines always end the Shakespearean sonnet in a very subtle and different way. I'll read this sonnet that is very famous in Shakespearean sonnets. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer leaves hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often in his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou wast, nor shall death brag thee wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eye can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Edmund Spenser, again another Elizabethan poet, and his sonnet is called Spenserian sonnet. His sonnet is again a bit different from that written by Shakespeare. Spenserian sonnet. It shows a variant, that means it is different. It differs in rhyme scheme, and again it has the three quatrains, that means 3 times 4 lines are written, and a couplet. In the end there are 2 lines written that have the same rhyme scheme. It contrasts with Shakespearean rhyme scheme, and his sonnet also requires 2 fewer rhymes, but it is more complicated to write. For example, his most noted sonnet is One Day I Wrote Her Name Upon the Strand. He is speaking in this sonnet to his fiancée Elizabeth Boyle, and this is a part of his book that is compiled of all his sonnets, and its name is Amoretti, that means little love in Italian. Let's look at Spenser's poems. One day I wrote her name upon the strand, but came the waves and washed it away. Again I wrote it with a second hand, but came the tide and made my pains his pay. Vain man, says she, that dost in vain essay a mortal thing to immortalize. For I myself shall like to this decay, and eke my name be wiped out likewise. Thanks for watching. Hope